This was quite a difficult talk to write because so much happened during the long reign of Queen Victoria, very similar to the reign of Queen Elizabeth II, many, many years, 60 odd years. So there is an awful lot of change during that period. So it's quite a difficult talk to write. Anyway, I'm going to try. Sunderland in 1837. It's not actually Sunderland as we know today. There are 3 townships. Sunderland, which is down in the East End, the rough bit. Bishop Weymouth, which is the posh bit, and Monk Weymouth over the river. They were quite separate, although quite close together. In 1837, the population of what we would call Sunderland today was about 42,000. And by the end of the period, because of the industrial growth and development, it was near 150,000. So massive change. The picture that you've got, the painting that you've got in front of you there, is the first Weymouth Bridge. Initially, the bridge was sort of curved, and then George Stephenson, the engineer, levelled it in the 1850s. If you had a few quid in 1837, you could bid for the right of the toll over the River Wear. It was worth £2,600 a year. So if you had, say, £2,000 and you bid that, you could hopefully make about £600 profit, less the costs of the tollmaster and the running of the buildings and things like that. Similarly, you could bid for the rights over Sunderland Ferry. The ferry at this point is not a steam-driven ferry; it's cobbles across the river, and the rights, the income from that is about £800. So if you bid 500, you would hopefully make about £300. In Britain, in 1837, the biggest employer was agriculture. This is Lockie's Farm in Downhill. The building in the front there is still, you can still see that today. And you can see from a relatively small farm just how many employees it would have. And that's why it was a heavy, lots of people working in the farming industry. In Sunderland, the biggest employment wasn't shipbuilding, but related to the sea. So sailors, people like this, loading and unloading ships, carpenters, riggers, people who would repair or replace the rigging on the old ships, caulkers who would make sure it was seaworthy, keelmen. Coal would be deposited further up the river, and then it would have to be brought down on keels and then loaded onto the ships. Once loaded onto the ships, you had to have trimmers who made sure that the ship was evenly, the cargo was evenly matched so the ship didn't sink. There was also pilots, and this is a group of pilots. You can see them with their spyglasses there. They had the job of seeing people in and out of the river. It was a difficult river because it's narrow and winding. There was a lot of hanging around when you were a pilot, and if you can see the bottom right-hand corner, I suspect it also involved a little bit of drinking as well. It was also the pilot's job to make sure that all the port dues were paid when the ship left port. I was starting to wonder, what would the Victorians think about some of the things today? What would they think of high hats and high-vis jackets and health and safety in general? Not a lot, because there certainly wasn't a lot of it during that period. Looking at the development of the port itself, this is the North Dock, which was completed in 1837. This is a sketch drawing. And from this, you can just see how small it was. It was just totally inadequate. It was built by Sir Hedworth Williamson because he owned the land, and he also had the political power to get an Act of Parliament through. To do something like that in those days, you needed an Act of Parliament. and he had those sort of powers, but it was never large enough. This is the chap who designed it, Isambard Kingdom Bradell. I just love the picture with the size of those chains behind there, they're enormous. In 1848, it was always recognised that the North Dock wasn't big enough. So in 1848, you can see on the right-hand side there, Hendon Dock was designed by an engineer called Meek. He became the engineer to the River Wear Commissioners ultimately. And also, if you look next to it, you've got Hudson Dock. Now, in 1845, George Hudson, who was called the Railway King because he developed so many rail lines, and he became MP for Sunderland in 1845, and he was charged with two tasks: to bring more railway to Sunderland, but also to build a South Dock, because the North Dock was wholly inadequate. And in 1850, he delivered on the project. By then, he himself is drinking too much, is overextended financially, his star is fading, but he did manage to complete the project. A couple of the frigates on the left-hand side of the painting there, they were built in Sunderland and for the Navy and fought in the Crimean War. The town was given the best part of the day off so that it would come down and join in the celebrations. And there was great cheers as the first keels came down and the coal was loaded onto the ships, because coal was the reason behind it all. This is what the entrance to the harbour would have looked like before 1880-ish. The cobble there with the people in it, that's probably pilots waiting for a job. The lighthouse on the left there is the one that you can see on top of the down at the seafront at Roker. But it was recognised that ships were getting a bit bigger, so a bigger entrance to the harbour so they could safely bring the ships in to the port. The design of the pier was by this chap, Henry Hay Wake. He was only 21 when he was given the job of engineer to the River Wear Commissioners. The project took 18 years to deliver, slightly beyond our period, but it was a tremendous engineering project. You've probably seen this picture before, but it's a tremendous picture. And Wake was very, very proud of the fact that during the 18-year period, given all the heavy machinery and everything that's there was nobody killed. Very unusual in a Victorian project of this size. And here we have the completed pier with the famous crane Goliath there at the end. That actually stood there for a few years after the pier was completed. But that allowed the bigger ships to enter the port. We're going to have a look at Victorian fashion now. When we see black and white pictures of the Victorian period, you kind of think that the colours of the clothes must be quite plain, charcoals, black, greys, but in fact they weren't. Reds, greens, blues, very vibrant colours. At the beginning of the period, the ladies there are wearing bonnets, but by the end of it's sort of hats. Around the 1850s, you have the bustle. You know, does my bum look big in this? By the time of the green lady on the bottom line, the sewing machine had been invented, so pleats were starting to appear. The main thing, though, for these people was they had loads and loads of layers of clothing.
It's totally free to subscribe to our channel, and we'll let you know when there's a new video to watch. The subscribe button is below the video, next to the like, share and comment icons. The link to our Facebook site is in the top comment right next to our link to explore the Sunderland Antiquarians website.